board meeting for October 17th. Good to see everybody here. And it looks like the weather's going to get nasty before we leave here, but and the time in is 6 p.m. First item is the approval of the agenda. You've all had a chance to look at that. It's in your packet. Recommended action is to approve the agenda as presented.
This is Dara Savage. I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
It's been moved and second to accept the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. All right, let's stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick moment of silence. First, before I do that, let me pass this on. During a moment of silence tonight, I ask that you remember Mr. Ben Sermon. Last week, the Seaford School District and the surrounding communities were deeply saddened with the passing of Ben Sermon from Seaford and Fenwick Island on October the 10th of 2022. Mr. Sermon was a teacher, a counselor, coach, athletic director for Seaford High School during his years for the Seaford School District. Everyone knows the role and the impact he has played in bringing the many conferences, divisional and state championships to the halls of Seaford High School. This past January, the gymnasium of Seaford High School was officially dedicated to Mr. Ben Sermon, called the Ben Sermon Gymnasium because of his achievements. Our thoughts and prayers to his family. Let's take a moment of silence in his remembrance. Thank you. Next item is the approval of minutes for the September the 19th board meeting. All were present, all can vote. Recommended action is to approve those minutes.
Is Jeff Goodson, I move that we approve the minutes from September 19th. Board meeting.
Dara Savage, a second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes from September the 19th, 2022 board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Next item is 402, which is the minutes for the public meeting on October the 3rd. All were present, so all can vote. Recommended action is to approve those minutes.
This is Jeff. Okay.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the minutes for the October 3rd, 2022 public meeting.
Jeff Goodson, second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the October 3rd, 2022 board public meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 5, public participation. I have been informed there is no forms that were turned in, so we will move on to item 6, which is reports and presentations, and 6.01 is superintendent's communication. I will turn that over to Dr. Mitch.
Thank you. Good evening.
Please.
So I would actually like to publicly thank Mrs. Carol Lovely and her staff and the community members for the work they did this Saturday for the Frederick Douglass 100th year celebration. I know I saw some of the open attendance, and it was really great to see that community support, the history wall in the hallway, students coming in from out of town, walking around, checking everything out, the stories. A lot of staff who actually went to school through Frederick Douglass. Those stories were fun. I loved our guest speakers. They would, if we didn't go up and take the mic, they would still be on the mic.
They would, they would.
They really enjoyed themselves. They had a good time. They're looking forward. I know one thing that we were asked a lot about was the shirts, the Frederick Douglass shirts that the staff was wearing. They were really a big hit. So that's something we're gonna be looking at and trying to do some work around those. But it was a great day and the weather cooperated, which made it even better. So a few things for this coming Friday. Now, if we remember last year, we didn't have the parade, but we tried that tailgate that we held right out here. We're going to try to hold that event again Friday night. And very similar to last year, schools will have tables. We'll have some community partners who will have some tables, some giveaways, some Seaford gear. So that's going to start Friday at 5. There'll be a pre-sale for tickets during the school day. It will also take place. We'll have a booth there. And also at 5 will be our dedication with the Hurley Field sign. So we have a lot going on Friday night. We're really looking forward to it. And Friday is actually our last home football game of the season. So it'll be busy. Some other key events. I know Mr. Zoll has scheduled on October 25th, our annual school choice meeting that will be held 6 p.m. here in the board room. This Thursday, 10/20, I'll be holding, I have a parent advisory committee. We'll have our first meeting of the year this Thursday at 6. Some other updates from our instruction division. We're going to be hosting or holding a college / service fair on 10/27. And we're asking that all of our school community wears their college gear or their service military gear. So just really to support our students in that process. And I think I mentioned to the board already, but just if I did not, University of Virginia, as you know, we're in our secondary partnership with them. They were on site last week for our visits, and 2 intense days with their staff, working with district office teams as well as our secondary administrators. And even though I feel like we've been doing this for a long time, you always learn something. So it's always nice to kind of talk about what you're doing well and find some areas that you can get a little better in. So they were 2 great days of professional development for us. Also, tomorrow, a school district, Abington School District of Pennsylvania will be coming down to take a look at some of our elementary schools, taking a look at the elementary math program we have in place. And also next week, Columbia University researchers will be on site, taking a look at, especially at our middle school and 2 of our elementary schools, the work we've been doing with high quality instructional materials, HQIM, taking a look at how we're implementing and also how we're staying that course with some of the challenges when you implement new curriculums. So that's the updates I have for the board.
Will we have any requests here for those visits? Columbia and the district out of PA?
Yes. Then we have set up.
Well, first of all, Columbia University is going to be writing a report for us, so it will be recognized that way. They're really looking to highlight the positive things that school districts are doing around the country and everywhere. So we'll be part of that overall report, but internally, we'll take some photos, we'll share positive press, and we'll make it part of what we have going on.
And our new news crew is here too, right? So you're invited.
Yes.
Awesome. No suggestion, I was just making sure that we can brag to our people.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas, for your communications. All right, next item is 6.03, or 6.02. It is board communications. Tonight, I just have one thing I want to share with you is the legislative committee meeting that we had back on date here, October the 5th. Mr. Wright joined us there at that meeting, so he knows what was said there also. Basically, the big thing in that meeting was we spent a lot of time discussing and reviewing the legislative priorities for the legislative committee. And in your packet or on top of your folder, I gave you a copy of those priorities. As you look through those, you can look through those at your own convenience. I just want to mention that there's 7 priorities. Number 1 is the state student-based unit funding system, but none of these priorities are listed in order of priority. I mean, they're all of equal weight and concern to DSBA. So just because that one is number 1 doesn't mean that that is priority number 1. Number 2 is school safety and security. 3 is mental and behavioral health services. 4 is pre-kindergarten supports. 5 is adequate state funding. 6 is local district authority. And 7 is the SAT testing as the sole measure of student and school performance. A lot of these are the same ones that we've been after for several years, and we continue. But also, you'll look on this paper, you'll see that we added some other general issues as number 8. And you can read through those that we added on this year to our priorities. The other thing I will note, let's see, Superintendent Chasnoff was there from Woodbridge to represent the Chiefs. And he was involved in our discussion on these. And I will tell you that the Chiefs, their priorities that they have put out are pretty much in line, and ours are in line with theirs.
Yeah.
So that's basically what that meeting was about. Our next meeting is February the 1st. That's the next legislative committee chair when the new legislative chambers come back in the 152 General Assembly. And also the next board of directors is coming next month, a couple of weeks, November 2nd. And if you have any question on those priorities, you can get in touch with me and I'll explain anything or find someone to explain anything that you might have concern with. Mr. Wright, do you have anything else or did I cover?
That's about it.
Thank you so much for your support and being there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Item 6.03 is the AEB policy discussion. This is the central fact that we've been reviewing and looking at, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Doug Henry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so Dr. D, we'll fly through these pretty quickly. We're looking at them, like, so basically slide 2 is, next one. Slide 2 is basically, we've already looked at that and checked that out. I think everything's good on there. I did put option 1 back in there because, a couple of people said that they kind of like that one. So we'll go from there to option 2. There's option 2, and now the new options that we added. With the close-ups, and I do like those. So there's one of the close-ups, option 3, and then option 4 is another close-up. Now, after saying that, I wasn't happy with the background. I was like, what are we gonna do with the background? So if you flip to the next one, Dr. D, if you see that, that's how it's gonna look when it's finished. So they're basically gonna fade the background out. So you won't see the background. And flip to the next one, it really shows kind of how, see how that one is. So they kind of hide that background from it. And just remember, we're gonna be able to approve the final, you know what I mean? So when that's faded out, if we don't like it, we can send it back and say, hey, we want this changed. That. So I just think the close-ups, I really like those, especially with the faded background, because I think that's gonna
Right, yeah.
picture cool on that. So I'm glad we took the time and went through that.
Me too.
I think that's gonna turn out well. So, all right, so now, basically, do we just wait till the end to do approval, or do you want to vote on that now, Mr. Paul, or how do you want to do that?
Well, it'll be a vote in voting part of the agenda.
Okay, so between option 3,
I'll take a motion at that time, but what's the general consensus here?
I already set my vote, I like 3.
Yeah. That's the same thing.
Yeah, I was choosing either 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm at.
I'll make either one of them.
I like how the fine 4 is.
Yeah,
I like to look through, and the reason I say that is it's the fact at 3. It seems like he's cut off just a little bit on 3, and then when you go to 4, it's kind of they're all.
I'll take that. But, and you said we could, again, still work on the contrast and the fading out.
All
But
that,
this one seems like it has a sepia tone to it, where the other one does not. That's why I was picking 3,
yeah.
because it was clearer. But number 4 has a sepia tone.
Mhm.
But if it's gonna be faded out, the background, then it does, the sepia doesn't matter.
Okay,
Well, those other 2 slides that show what it would look like in the finished product.
right, right, yes, that's gonna show what it's gonna look like. So I guess, there, when we get the final back, if we don't like it, we could ask her for 3. You know what I mean, if that's what you guys think.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll go with 4 and then see how we make out that.
We'll have a motion later. Okay,
That works. Thank you,
that's
guys.
fine. Thank you for all your help.
You're welcome.
All right, the next presentation is 6.04 policy IJNDC, technology, acceptable use and internet safety. And that's Dr. D.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So after a brief hiatus there, as you were a policy maven, spent September working with a special ed hat on doing September 30th unit count. I'm back to policy for you, right? I know. I'm excited. I'm speaking with all your one here. So in your folders, you should have a copy of that IJNDC. As you know, gosh, with technology right now, it is moving almost faster than we can keep up with it. So we keep plugging along and we look at those different pieces of policy that have to do with technology. And this one needed a little bit of tweaking. First of all, there's just some antiquated language in there. We don't refer to a Seaford telecommunication network. I think that was language when we were kind of our own entity. And now that we're on state servers and have more of that relationship with the state, we needed to eliminate that. There's also some redundancy in there, referencing compliance with the Children's Internet Protection Act. It was already in that 4th paragraph, so we struck that from the 1st paragraph. And then, again, the redundancy of referencing the regulation that goes along with the policy, that's just what we do. It doesn't need to be stated out. Other than that, it's pretty tight. We will be going back to review the regulations and all the acceptable use documents forms. But that was going to take a little more time in terms of building level input on how they're using those forms. So that is IJNDC, nothing too extreme, but slowly whittling away at inaccuracies and redundancies.
Very good.
I can just move right into,
Yeah, we'll take action on this as a first reading tonight.
Okay.
Later in the.
yes, right, so this one is definitely a policy and requires the 2 readings.
And yes, you can move on to 6.05, the one with news releases, which are regulations,
KDD
KDDA.
So this one is informational purposes, this is a regulation. That is being modified, and it is the bold type that is being added to this text about the public information officer. So requiring approval, and that's just, an introduction of a new process within the district.
Okay. Any questions there?
Yeah.
Then you can go on and move to 6.07, which is, 6.06, the GCH-R professional staff orientation.
Again, a change in regulations, so purely sharing information. But some more substantial changes to this one. I think a lot of the work we're doing with both regulation and policy has to do with just streamlining, just taking out the pieces that are subject to change. Things that we don't do anymore, to keep the policy a little bit more overarching, a little bit broader. And then being able to specify in the regulations, but then in the regulations, also just clarifying the things that we do, the things that we don't do anymore. We don't talk about a buddy teacher anymore, so, you know, that's been eliminated. Again, adding in the bold point at number 3 about the comprehensive induction program guidelines. We already have those guidelines, so then we can just implement those.
So it's just a lot of outdated papers,
Really, I mean, that's just a lot of the work that we're doing.
bringing up to this. Thing.
Mr. Charles.
That's not right. We're also trying to make the policy manual online searchable by term. But it's going to take some work because we have to move things out of PDF and probably into an HTML file. But then once everything's, so we can transfer all of the old stuff over and then start searching by keyword to bring up all of the policy and regs. But it's kind of been a back and forth, but we are working on that.
Also, the time we get through all these policies, the policy manual will be a lot less pages too.
We'll start over again. Let's do that after we-
Thank you so much. You're welcome. No questions? Okay.
All right, I'm usually nervous about who I follow, but following policy, I'm doing pretty good right now.
Hey.
Well, this little trousers. Well, I will say the nice thing
So
about
we're
that,
going to take this.
I did it, you know,
Okay, very good.
I'm going to use this, but I think I want right here. I'll go. I'm ready. What's it? So, I just passed out the legislation just in case you hadn't seen it. Did I not give it enough?
I have.
You know by heart.
So I don't think one.
Yeah.
Oh. It's actually in the presentation that I gave you too. I just like have things in front of me sometimes and write on them. So I'm just gonna review with you House Bill 198 and our progress. So it's a little bit odd that I'm the one speaking to the progress since I'm kind of new here. But this has been a state level thing. So although I'm new to here, you know, as far as this work goes, I was definitely involved with it. And we have an expert among us. There who's been very involved, and that is good for us, you know, that represents Seaford and of course. So there is a lot of slides here, but I'm not gonna go through all of them. I just want to make sure that you had some of the background knowledge that haven't been presented. And then you can read through, and of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and ask, and if I don't know, I will find out. So as far as the House bill, I gave that to you there, and what it boils down to is the state is recognizing the importance that we need to teach Black history in our schools. And that it needs to be in the curriculum throughout K-12, and it needs to be taught. And so we've been doing the work as far as like figuring out where it was going to be taught throughout the state. But one thing that the state has added, and you'll see this is the role of the HB 198 lead. So lucky me, I am that, which I love because I taught social studies and I'm a social studies teacher. So this has always been a passion of mine, and now I get to be the point person for the district. Kelly is also with that with me, just simply because I can speak to what we're doing now and where we want to go, but I don't know all of what we've done. So, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. So for this year, she's there to support me in that. So this is actually taken straight from legislation, and it's the slides that I'm going to show you here are actually what were presented to the HB 198 leads for the entire state, which I get to be a part of. So this is not something new. It was signed into law in 2021. And then this is the year of implementation. So last year, districts in the state were looking at, okay, what do we currently have? What do we need? How can we get support? And so this is the year of implementation. With that being said, we are able to, and I'll speak to the report in a minute, but we're able to speak to what we're going to do, and more importantly, where we'll find what we still need. So it's obviously anytime you're implementing something new, it's going to be a work in progress. And just for sakes, the next 6 slides I did take from the Department of Ed, I did not make them. So there are 2 SIFs, and the SIFs here are basically the breakdown of who's in charge of what and what it's gonna look like. You can see here that this is regulation from the state, and you can see that there are DOE responsibilities. It is not the responsibility of Department of Education to create our curriculum. We have to do this, we have to align our curriculum, and where we don't have it, we need to find it. This is just a little bit closer for those of you who need a little closer, and then this here is the framework that needs to be covered. And we'll look at this a little bit closer here in a minute. And then this is that accountability piece, right? So Dr. Sharon Bringham, who was one of my teachers, always said, what gets monitored gets done. And so the state is ensuring that this is happening. So every November 15th from here on out, the HB 198 lead has to complete a report, which I'm working on right now, in conjunction with a lot of other people to support me. And that report is submitted to Department of Ed. Department of Ed then compiles all of the material, and then it's going to report it to legislation. So it's holding schools accountable to ensure that what we're saying is going to happen is happening, and it's very specific as well. This is the framework that all curriculum has to have part of. And then this is really what it boils down to as a teacher, right? I want to know what standards do I need to teach? How am I going to teach in the content? So you'll see that this A through H, these are the topics that we have to be able to identify when they're being taught through what grades. And legislation states that you have to cover all of these at some point through a child's K-12 experience. Not every year you have to teach each of these, but at some point through there. So what we've done is we've inventoried what we have. We have amazing curriculum here. I've learned all about bookworms and illustrative math. And so looking at those and talking to our experts and those and our other connections throughout the state, we've identified where we're doing just this. In our work group, some of these are more challenging to teach at different levels, right? I mean, if you look at the relation between white supremacy, racism, and American slavery, what does that look like in a kindergarten classroom? It might look different. It may not be taught in kindergarten. So really we have to look at that. But the important piece is that kids are learning about these topics young, so that way they can, in their perspectives, that they can understand. So that when they get to high school, they're not hearing about this for the first time. So they're not just hearing about it for the first time in family, they're hearing it in the context of their education. I will try to do this. This is completely just, if it doesn't come up, it's okay. When you get a chance, this is not, these are my notes, so don't judge me. But you'll see it has all of those areas and then K-12, and you can see exactly where we've identified what marking period and what unit, what is being done to hit that piece of material. And I'm proud to say that we already have identified throughout that we are in compliance. The compliance isn't good enough, right? So now we need to go further. So that didn't work. There we go. Okay, so our next steps here. So these are immediate. Actually this week, Kelly, myself, and Nicole, who is our reading specialist, we're going to the roundtable discussion of the Department of Ed. And each district is bringing 3 representatives, and we're going to share the materials that we've identified and borrow and from others as well. And we're getting some professional development around different areas. So I'm looking forward to that. Collaborating with the instruction team, specialists, administrators to complete the worksheets. These worksheets that the state department has provided us mirror the report, so that way people can collaborate on the report on those, and then it goes into the report. So it's just not me speaking to it; it's everybody that's played a part. This is a big one. We're really working with our related arts to be able to identify K-8, especially because that's where all kids go through those. High schools different; those are career pathways and electives. But where can we find fun, interactive ways to be able to implement some of that material so that kids aren't just reading, but they're also doing things with it. Professional development, this is huge. We need to identify areas. We've already got some small areas. We've been working with our loan committee, but we want to make sure that our staff understands what House Bill 198 is, and that's not a box that they're checking. It's something that they start to live and do. We need to partner with our social studies curriculum, our coalition. the 9 through 12 units in the Socialist Coalition are old school. They're not mirroring this, and I really want to be a part of the state level of helping this work move forward. So it's a passion of mine, and I'm excited to be able to do that. And then the model units are fantastic. These were just released for social studies grades 4, 6, and 8. They are aligned to the new state assessment, which is aligned to House Bill 198. So if we can identify those model units and use them consistently throughout our schools, making sure that all of our kids are getting that. It's some of the work that we're going to be doing. And then this, we had our curriculum council meeting last week. There was a part of that. Thank you for that. And we did a work group where I went through part of it. I went through the presentation a little bit more in depth, actually, to give them some backgrounds. And this is the feedback they provided to us. So this is really our next steps. What we knew we already needed to do, I didn't need to put on a slide. I already knew we need to do it. But this is big. And what I got from them was people need to know, right? Our families need to know this is happening. Our community needs to know, and we need to get that word out. So we'll identify ways to be able to do that. And maybe they even said, one person said, let's provide information to our PTOs. Like, how can we do that? So this is in the future, the very near future, but first I want to make sure our report is done and done well. So this is where we are. Question.
Good stuff.
It's not
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great presentation.
you.
All right, we'll move into our agenda action items. The first one is 7.01 school choice. And on the agenda, you will see there is one application. Recommended action is to approve school choice application 2022-23-36.
This is Jeff Mason. I make a motion that we approve student choice application 2022-23-36 as presented.
There is that second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the school choice application 2022-23-36. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.02 is field trips. You have a field trip agenda. There are 2 on the agenda. One for the high school on November the 18th. And a second one for Central Elementary on December the 9th. And is that, should that be 22 instead of 23?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any questions?
No question.
Recommended action is to approve the field trip agenda as presented.
This is Marcus Straight. I move that we approve the field trip agenda as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the field trip agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item is facilities request. We have an agenda for that. There is one facility request for the Delmarva Council of Boy Scouts of America. They've been here before. Never were any problems. That rental date will be on October the 20th of 2022. Does anybody have any other questions? Recommended action is approved for this portion.
Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the facility request agenda as presented.
There's that second.
Then moved and second to approve the facility request as presented, agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.04 is the AEB policy. Recommended action is to approve the plaque signage for the Central Elementary, which I think was option 4. So I'll take a motion.
This is Darren Savage. I move we approve the signage for Central Elementary option 4.
Kim Hopkins, I second.
It's been moved and second to approve the sign for Central Elementary plaque option 4. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.05 is the policy that we reviewed, IJNDC, technology acceptable use and internet safety. Recommended action is to approve this first reading for that policy. IJNDC, technology acceptable use and internet safety.
This is Jeff Benson. I move that we approve the first reading of IJNDC technology acceptable use and internet.
Marcus Red, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the first reading of IJNDC, technology acceptable use and internet safety. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, the next item is 7.06. We're moving to the financial reports, and I'll turn the floor over to Mrs. Brennan.
Evening.
Good evening.
So at this point, we are 25% of the way through the fiscal year. We've encumbered or expended $966,000 since our September meeting. And across all funds, we have expended or encumbered 29.29%. Looking at local salaries, they are tracking at 23.61%, so we are below 25. Keeping in mind, we have one of our 2 3Ks already behind us. The other item I wanted to point out for this meeting is the school choice and charter. It's the bottom line. We did have to do our charter prepayment of about $150,000. Once we finalize choice and charter, you'll see the full amount out of that line, but at this point, it's about $150,000. Moving into tax collection. This is a big month for us. We received $4.1 million in taxes in September. Well, we received them in October, but they're for the month of September. And in addition to that, we received our senior property tax of $289,000. So all told, we received about $4.3 million. We did receive this in the next month last year, so we're not exactly comparing apples to apples. But we right now are tracking at about 89% of our total taxes that we've received. So that is a very good sign. Moving into the set aside. Once again, this remains constant. Nothing has changed. We have not touched anything here. And then finally, our monthly revenue report. So in terms of state funds, there was an increase of about $1.2 million since our last meeting. A lot of this came in the form of opportunity funds, which was $957,000 approximately. We received an additional preload and then they kind of threw us up with the second payment. The other part too is we received about $205,000 for the middle school mental health services. That's for House Bill 300. Next year, that will be a block grant, but for this year, they're giving you an allocation. In terms of local funds, we received an increase of about $1.3 million overall. The majority of this is for our current expense for taxes. And then finally, we received approximately $1.3 million in federal funds, and that is part of our consolidated grant, which we are very happy to receive.
Very good. I have no questions. Do you have anything?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is an action item. Recommended action is to approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the monthly financial report as presented.
Darren Savage, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Long range agenda, item 8. On the long range agenda, we have October the 20th. West Seaford Family Fun Night. This Friday night, we have 10/21. October 21st, we have Hurley Field dedication. I believe that starts at 5 also. And the Blue Jay Pride Senior Tailgate starts at 5. Mr. Henry, the Hurley, that'll be in front of the sign.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. October the 25th, there's a school choice meeting. November the 8th is election day. This is an election year. Our district is closed. And also, since the election year, Returns Day in Georgetown on November the 10th is a half-day PD, no students. And then November the 11th is Veterans Day. The district is closed. Does anybody have anything else to add to that list?
I don't know, it's my favorite time of the year in school. Like your brothers? Yeah.
Least number of students. Yeah, that's the way it works. Especially in an election. All right, moving on to executive session. We need to move to an executive session for personnel matters and legal updates. I need a motion to move to executive session.
It's Marcus, right? Move that we enter into executive session.
Darren Savage, I second.
It's been moved and second to move to executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. And the time going out is 6:41 PM.